And spawning in the upper right, in the blue, he is for Starcom. Give it up for Koss.
And his opponent in the lower left-hand corner. Our red Protoss, it is GunGFuBanDa.
Of course, GunGFuBanDa here. As you said, he is at 2 and 3. He is not guaranteed top 4, certainly not. But you were talking about how, everyone has to play Raynor. And that is a fair assessment. But the other way to say it is if everyone's going to lose to Raynor, those maps actually don't matter, right? If everyone loses to Raynor, well, effectively everyone starts 0 and 1. Raynor gets out in first place, and it's just a battle for the top 3 or top 4 after that one. And well, you go on, right? GunGFuBanDa, effectively, he's 2 and 2. He's not 2 and 3. So is Showtime has one less loss in his name for everything that really matters. So yeah, you say that, yeah, Showtime, they're on top of the world. They have not faced Raynor yet, but does that really matter if everyone's going to lose?
Well, I think it matters just for the perception of the group. Raynor obviously is a fallible player. You never know. We could see Showtime take him down. We could see Christiana take him down. It wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. It's just not what we expect. And I just want to make sure that the ladies and gentlemen at home, when they look at this group, they don't think, well, Showtime and Christiana they're pretty locked up there, because they still have at least one extremely difficult match to win yet. And I still feel like this whole center section of the group, 2 through 6, has a very real chance of just getting shooken up. Absolutely shooken.
Is that the proper declension of shooken? Is that how we do that?
Well, there's it's shook, and then you get shaken, but then if it's another level up, it's shooken.
No, I thought it stirred another level up, right? You get shaken, then you get stirred.
Never stirred. Stirred. We don't do stirred here.
You know the joke behind that, by the way, or at least the theoretical joke behind the James Bond shaken not stirred thing is shaking it apparently reduces the alcohol content that you get every drink, right? It just frosts it up. And therefore, Bond could go and he could get his martinis, get them shaken, and then therefore not get as drunk as everyone else does, and therefore keep on his wits a little bit more. Much like going up to say, oh, I want a virgin something, because you don't want to offend someone while still getting a drink.
That sounds like something that was retroactively added in. Like somebody later was like, well, he actually does that for this. It's like the parsec lines in Star Wars. Well, actually. He said that because it makes a lot of sense, and not because it makes no sense.
Wow. I mean, yeah, actually, the fun story about parsecs, though, is parsec used to be, I don't know if you're aware of this, used to be the light year, right? Where that was the official term for a unit of distance in space, or just a massive amount of distance. And then people were like, wait a minute, parsec sounds too sci-fi-ish. We can't have that. So they moved to, no, it was something else. And then they decided that was too sci-fi-ish, so they moved to parsec. And then that gets co-opted by science fiction, and then they moved to light year, and now light year's getting co-opted to science fiction. So in 15 years we're gonna be the photon travel or something, and that's gonna be our method of distance.
Well, I mean, space words just sound cool. Like right now we've got this these widow mines in this medevac. Star Wars or StarCraft, Star Wars, Star Trek, the words just sound cool. Well, I don't know what you want.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about here. This is very clearly orcs in space that we're watching today, as we have the drop coming on in now. Does GunGFuBanDa got the pull? Yeah, he's got that perfectly here. No drops going on off here, and we don't have detection. So, actually, they're going to get one Widow Mine already here. Yeah, the other two, we might see a single probe get sacrificed or something like that. Blink is actually done. He's got the double blink, but at the last second, the second Widow Mine, it gets 2 stalkers, and that's a little bit less nice here for our red Protoss player. It looked really good, but didn't quite time it right.
Yeah, he went for it. But it wasn't quite what we were looking for. A couple of those Widow Mines do get the connections. I think Cass is going to be happy with that. He gets the medevac away, kills 2 stalkers. I think that's well worth the 3 Widow Mines. He did, wasn't able to get any probes with it, but forced a little bit of lost mining time at least.
Yeah, and GunGFuBanDa not quite building the worker lead that he would like at this point in time. He's only at 5 workers despite not taking any probe damage, right? Losing 2 stalkers, that is going to make this hold just a little bit more difficult. But I mean, in all honesty, the stalkers are out on the map right now. Charge is only just now getting started, so that's going to be a bit of a problem here. But really, the question now is how much damage can GunGFuBanDa achieve as he runs across the map? How many Marines, really? He's not going to get on a tank, I don't think. Can he pare down before it is Koss sieging up here outside of his third base? Now, we have what? We have 2 shield batteries coming on in. What is this? What is killing probes? A Liberator in the natural, getting 8 workers.
There's actually
here.
a Liberator in the main as well. It looks like this is a lot of damage done, forcing GunGfu to warp in the main base. He's gonna siege up out here, but those shield batteries, overcharge is used, and this Immortal is just never going to die.
But here's the question, Chicken Man. Does that even matter? Assuming here that Koss is able to survive the follow-up attack, right? Because GunGFuBanDa's got to go on the aggressive here. It is 51 workers, 53 workers from Koss to 41 here workers of GunGFuBanDa, even as he is on 3 bases. And he's not mining from his natural. He was not really mining from any base for the majority of this game, at least for the majority of that last push. If we look at income here, look at that spike here for Koss. Now, granted, he does have to hold, right? Charge is closer to being done than not done. As we just ran into the main base.
Where did these 2 Marines come from?
Here?
They're not supposed to be here. It is big damage. 19 probes going down, but I do not like this move out for Koss. There is an observer here as well, so GunGFu's gonna spot this and he's just gonna jump on it. And I think you kind of called it. He needed to hold the counterattack and he has not held it. GunGFu's army is just a little too strong. He knew exactly what he needed to do. He just moved straight across the map and GG gets called despite all of that probe damage. I think Koss's army just got cleaned up a little bit too quickly there. He didn't have enough left at home to defend.
Yeah.
Even without the charge lots.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Unfortunately, you don't want to take your third base and move all of your SCVs to your third base when you've just done crippling economic damage to your opponent and you know they just cleaned up your attack. Like, I don't really understand why Koss decided to go for that move. He knew that he had... Look, 2 bases of his opponent were not mining for a good majority of the last 5 minutes. He killed off, he doesn't know, I mean, I don't think he knows exactly how many workers he killed, but he knows he killed off a good amount of workers from his opponent. All of these things being true, well, you just got to hold. You're up 15 workers on a Protoss player as a Terran that has mules. I mean, you just got to hold there. And unfortunately, Koss got just a little bit too greedy, maybe got a little bit too confident in that game state, or maybe just didn't have quite the read that he needed to have. And GunGFuBanDa, he's now 1 map away from going 3-3 in this group, which functionally, we talked about this, is 3-2 in the group.
Yeah, and again, this is a very important match for GunGFu. He can put himself in a great spot right now because I believe Christianer and Mana are one of the next. So they're going to be playing still. So you get to this weird spot where things can get really, really dicey again in the middle of that group, and GunGFu needs every win he can possibly get. He still has to go up against Showtime, a very difficult PvP. So he needs to get the win, and a 2-0 here would be very ideal. He's already ahead in maps against a lot of the other players with the same record as him. So keeping that map score up high, because set score is important, but if there's a tie in set score, map score is the next thing they go to.
Yep, absolutely. So we're going to have to see whether GunGFuBanDa can do that, whether he can secure that 2-0, because, hey, Blackburn, it's our next map. And in at the bottom left here, in at the red, he's down 1 game. Kind of throwing away a massive advantage for himself. He is for StarCom, Koss.
And his opponent up 1-0, 1 map away from an easy cruise to moving on here. It is going to be our red Protoss player, GunGFuBanDa.
So do we see something crazy here from Koss in this game number 2? Blackburn is a short map, right? There are some really powerful kind of 2-base, 2.5 base Terran pushes that you can make work on this map that maybe don't work as well on a, I mean, granted, Koss almost did make that 2-base push work on 2000 atmospheres, but there are some really scary pushes, right? Because you can section off so much of the Protoss position by getting your spot like right here between the natural and the third base, make life a little bit more difficult for that Protoss player than it might otherwise be. But do we see something like that, Chicken Man? Or do we just see something more middle of the road?
Well, you know, unless Cass is really, really comfortable going into a late game where you've got Ghosts and Liberators, maybe Vikings if there's Colossi out, and, you know, really getting those defenses set up. I gotta say, I think 2-base all in might just be the way to go. But even that's a little bit scary. GunGFu is usually pretty solid on defense. And we saw last game, I gotta say that Marine tank push felt like it did just about nothing. I don't know how many Stalkers it killed. The best thing it did was distract from the Liberators. And, you know, clearly it wasn't quite enough in that game. I'd love to see if he's gonna do something 2-base. I'd love to see it be a bit more powerful up front. The Liberators obviously got a lot of damage done, but I think if that money, if that time had been put into more units at the front, he might have been able to get something done there. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't all in. He had that third command center behind it. Wasn't super committed to it.
Yeah, I mean, imagine even I really like the push from Koss. Before we get into this, I think it got a lot done, right? He was up massively on his opponent's production or on his opponent's economy. All he had to do was just like turtle up on those 2 bases and be fine. But I imagine how that much better that push would have been at the front if he had 2 Liberators sitting over top of it, right? Stalkers blink on top of that, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna kill the Liberators. Well, you got tanks firing away. You make them split their shots, and now you got an Immortal that's fighting Marines. Maybe that is the move that Koss should have gone for, but again, he killed 15 workers. He denied mining from 2 bases for a solid minute and a half. That really should be enough to give him an advantage, assuming he doesn't lose everything. You know, he didn't lose everything. He just lost a lot. He had 2 tanks back at home, ready to siege, ready to make it really difficult for Koss to make that aggression happen. So with that being said, I do think Koss did everything that he needed to do in that game. It just didn't quite work out for him here, as the Reaper is going to get slowly, not tickled to death, but I don't know, tickled to half death.
Just forced to retreat. Just forced to retreat. The sentry said, "Get out of here, bud." And he just kind of like poked him. And the Reaper was like, all right, I'll go. It's okay. It's okay. I'll get out of here.
Yeah, it's like that, you know, like, I don't know if you have any siblings, but, you know, you got a younger brother, and they learn for the first time that when someone's touching someone, they're not actually touching them, right? There is this kind of a barrier of atom, like, you never fully make contact with a matter of another thing. So then they start poking you. They're like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching. And you're like, dude, stop it. You're touching me. That's kind of what a sentry is. They're like, I'm not touching you. You're like, okay, you're kind of touching me, but not enough that I can really say, you know?
That's incredibly accurate. And I don't think I've heard anybody talk about that since I was a young child. And listening to my little brothers bicker, that one definitely came out. Well, I'm not really technically touching you because all right, calm down there. You must have been the older brother.
Oh, 100%. I suffered at that, but it's also, you know, why I'm getting a PhD, right? It's like, I need to learn better comebacks about random science facts, and the only way you do that, of course, is you go get it piled high and deep.
That's true, and then you can lord it over your siblings. Oh, well, I have a PhD. What do you have?
Yeah. The secret, of course, is it's just all stubbornness, no talent. Anyway, let's talk about this game here now. Is we do have, what's that? Yeah, we have a third base underway, so we got +1 stim combat shield timing from Koss. Well, sorry, stim combat shield timing from Koss here. +1's going to be a little bit later. Other thing we got to pay attention to, of course, this is a 3cc build. He's not going to get as aggressive as like your archetypical +1 stim combat shield timing, right? You get your third base at 657 minutes. No. This one, he's going to have enough of army to hold. His stim will be at a rather decent timing. It means he's not going to be super vulnerable to, you know, the blink timing that's not coming here from GunGFuBanDa. And he's actually going to have a relatively evenly or well-timed third base here, which is kind of funny because we opened the game, we're like, how is this going to go, right? What just died? Okay, an observer was sniped.
It was an auto turret dropped to kill the observer.
Yeah, well.
And it was the auto turret death that we caught the tail end of.
Just the explosion, not the bang, just the whimper. But yeah, we opened this game talking about how we thought that, you know, we were going to see some aggression on this map, right? Because Blackburn is a strong, aggressive map. And yes, we do have Koss moving on now, but he's got a third base behind this. This is not the most committed attack we've ever seen from a Terran player 6 minutes into this game. Now, this has been scouted out, so GunGFuBanDa is going to be able to start to do that fun thing where you're like, I'm going to tickle you with stalkers. Well, Stim's the thing now.
Yeah, Stim making that very dangerous. These units going very far forward. Great force fields, but a good hot pick up there by Kaz, and he's going to have to try to retreat back a little bit. Huge shutdown on the Colossus, though. Is there a second Colossus out? One did just pop, and there's a shield battery here. Looks like GunGfu will be safe back at home. But some good moves there from Kaz. Now, can he hold this little counter push? It looks like GunGfu might want to put some pressure on with his 2 Colossi. He knows the Raven is out of energy. And he's going to try to pressure this bio.
Yeah, it's unfortunate here. Half the army of Kaz moved forward before the Raven, before the second half of the army was there, right? He stims part of it forward. So then he's fighting an entire Protoss army with half of his army, so enough of it goes down that when the Raven joins, when the Marines and the Marauders and everything else, the second set of medevacs join on up, because they're like, 2 seconds behind, suddenly Kaz can't take that fight. Because again, right, he went and he committed half of his army when he really should have been committing his entire army. I think if he had his entire army for that first push, right, stims it all forward, that Colossus gets disrupted, that Colossus gets shut down, the army is dead, and suddenly Kaz is in a much better spot. And you talk about GunGFuBanDa's, a counterpunch here. Well, his counterpunch is, living life to his best. Living the well-earned life here. He's got his 3rd base. He's mining from that. He's going to take his 4th base rather soon. And he's just developing his tech. He's getting on to +1. He's got 3 Colossus. We may see disruptors on the way behind that. Certainly, we will see that second forge. And it looks like Temple Archives are going to be the play, which actually may mean that GunGFuBanDa is interested in getting aggressive, right? You don't build Archons unless you are actually planning on attacking with them. So that may be the play. Could, of course, just be for Storm. We're going to have to see. But GunGFuBanDa, he's in a great place. He's sipping his Mai Tais, on Hawaii, on some soft white beach somewhere. And it's up to Kaz to, slap that Mai Tai out of his hand.
Yeah, I'm going to go say hi to him a little bit later. I got to say, I really love that Stalker position from GunGfu. That's the anti-drop Stalker position. He's got that Zealot in the middle of the map scouting to see if there's a move out so he can get out of here if he needs to. But I just, I feel like that shows a lot of care. He knows that the threat, especially on this map, of Doom Drop is very real. And then, yeah, he's on it with the Stalkers. He can go move out. That army is looking pretty scary here. Kaz has a good amount of Vikings, though. What's that? 6 Vikings right now. And he does have some ghosts, so he can EMP. I think this is going to be a good shot for Kaz. Let's see if he can take a good fight here. But there is a lot on the ground. There's those Archons you're talking about. Some EMPs go down with the Colossi standing tall. As I say that, they get shut down. 2 of them doing absolutely nothing, but the Zealots are mincing